Chapter 1. Ken is a businessman. He works for a large company in Shinjuku, Tokyo. He is a very hard worker and a very nice man. His co-workers and his boss like him very much. He joined the company 10 years ago. In his section there are 5 workers and the section manager. Everyone is very friendly and kind. His co-workers, Yumiko and Saho, are his best friends. They talk about many things. He likes Yumiko and Saho very much. Ken works from Monday to Friday. Every day, he goes to work by train. He arrives at the office at 8:15 a.m. He works until 7 p.m. After work, he often goes to the gym. Sometimes, he goes drinking with his co-workers. Ken enjoys his life, but there is one problem. He wants to get married, but he cannot find a marriage partner. Last year, he had 3 dates. He liked the women, but the women all said no thank you. He was very disappointed. Then, he went to 2 big singles parties. He talked to many women. He gave one woman his email address, but she didn't email him. Last weekend, Ken had a date. The woman was his friend's friend. They went to a restaurant. He had a good time. After the date, he emailed the woman. He wrote, "Thank you very much. I had a good time. Would you like to go for dinner next week?" She answered, "Sorry. I am busy next week." He wrote, "Okay. Would you like to go for dinner next month?" She answered, "Sorry. I am busy next month." Ken gave up. Ken really wants to get married. But, why don't women want to see him again? It is Monday morning. Ken walks into the office. "Good morning," says Ken. "Good morning, Ken," says Yumiko. "How are you?" "I'm not so good today, Yumiko," says Ken. "Really? What's wrong?" asks Yumiko. "I had a date on Saturday," says Ken. "That's great. Did you have a good time?" asks Yumiko. "Yes, I had a good time," says Ken. "Are you going to see the woman again?" asks Yumiko. "No, I'm not," says Ken. "Why not?" asks Yumiko. "I emailed the woman yesterday, but she answered I'm busy," says Ken. "Oh, that's too bad," says Yumiko. She looks at Ken's face. He looks so disappointed. She is worried about him. Saho walks into the office. "Good morning," says Saho with a big smile. "Good morning, Saho," say Ken and Yumiko. "Ken, are you okay? You look sad," says Saho. "Ken is not okay," says Yumiko. "Why not? What's wrong?" asks Saho. "He had a date on Saturday, but the woman doesn't want to see him again," says Yumiko. "Why doesn't she want to see you again, Ken?" asks Saho. "I don't know," says Ken. "I have many dates, and I go to singles parties. But, the women don't want to see me again. I don't know why." "It's strange," says Yumiko. "Ken, you are a very nice man. You are very friendly and kind. I don't understand." "Yes, it's strange," says Saho. But I have another date on Saturday, says Ken. The woman is from an internet dating site. Really? That's good, says Yumiko. Yes, but I'm very nervous and very worried, says Ken. Women always say no when I asked to see them again. Yumiko thinks about Ken's problem. Then, she says, Ken, I have a good idea. We can help you. Help me. How? Asks Ken. Where are you going to meet the woman? Asks Yumiko. I'm going to meet her at the Italian restaurant, Casa, says Ken. Saho, are you busy on Saturday night? Asks Yumiko. No, I don't have any plans, says Saho. Saho, let's go to the Italian restaurant on Saturday night, says Yumiko. Why? Asks Saho. In the restaurant we can watch Ken. We can check his manners. Then, we can give him advice. He is very nice, but women always say no. That's very strange. He needs help and advice, says Yumiko. That's a great idea, says Saho. Yes, let's do that. We are like spies. We will spy on you, Ken. Now I feel very nervous, says Ken. Everyone laughs. Chapter 2. It is 6:50 p.m. on Saturday evening. Ken is sitting in the restaurant. He is waiting for the woman. Yumiko and Saho are sitting at the next table. Ken is very nervous. Yumiko looks at Ken and says, Ken, relax. I'm trying to relax, says Ken. The woman walks into the restaurant. She is very cute. Ken stands up. Good evening. I'm Ken Maeda. Nice to meet you, says Ken. Good evening. I'm Asuka Nagai. Nice to meet you too, says the woman. They sit down. The waiter brings the menu. Ken and Asuka look at the menu. There are many nice dishes on the menu. Ken likes Italian food very much. He looks at the menu for 5 minutes. The waiter comes back. What would you like? The waiter asks. Meat sauce pasta, please, says Asuka. What would you like? The waiter asks Ken. Ken looks at the menu. I don't know. The meat sauce pasta looks good, but I had pasta for dinner last night, so maybe pizza, says Ken. Pizza? Which pizza would you like? Asks the waiter. The cheese pizza looks delicious and the seafood pizza looks good, too. I don't know, says Ken. The cheese pizza is today's special, says the waiter. Really? Okay, I'll have the cheese pizza, please, says Ken. What would you like to drink? Asks the waiter. Let's have a bottle of wine, says Ken. Would you like red or white? I don't drink alcohol, says Asuka. I'll have an iced tea, please. Oh really? You don't drink alcohol? Wow. Okay, I will have a glass of red wine, please, says Ken. Ken is very nervous. When he is nervous, he talks a lot. He talks about his job, his family and his hobbies. Asuka listens to his stories. The waiter brings the food and drink. Asuka eats her pasta and Ken eats his pizza. The pizza is very delicious. Ken eats it very quickly. Asuka finishes her pasta. The waiter comes back. Would you like a dessert? Asks the waiter. Yes, please, says Ken. What desserts do you have? We have chocolate cake, cheesecake and strawberry cake, ice cream and... Oh, I will have the chocolate cake, says Ken. I love chocolate cake. I will have the strawberry cake, says Asuka. They eat the desserts. Asuka goes to the toilet. Ken looks at Yumiko and Saho. Yumiko and Saho look very angry. Ken doesn't understand. Why are they angry? Chapter 3. It is Monday morning. Ken, Yumiko and Saho are in the office. They are talking about Ken's date. Did I pass? Asks Ken. No, you didn't. You failed, says Yumiko, shaking her head. Ken, your manners were not good in the restaurant. I was very shocked, says Saho. Why? What did I do? Asks Ken. He doesn't understand. First, you didn't ask Asuka what would you like, says Saho. Is that bad? Asks Ken. Yes. Of course it's bad, says Saho. Why? Asks Ken. If you ask what would you like, Asuka will think you are very kind. She will think he is thinking about me. He cares about me, but you didn't think about Asuka. You only thought about yourself, says Saho. Oh, I see, says Ken. Ladies first? Yes, says Saho. Of course. Then, you looked at the menu for 5 minutes, says Yumiko. Is that bad? Asks Ken. Of course. You should decide quickly, says Yumiko. Women like strong men who decide quickly. Then, you said, let's have a bottle of wine. You should say what would you like to drink, says Saho. Asuka said I don't drink alcohol. Then, you said wow, that is not polite. And you talked a lot. You talked about yourself. You didn't ask any questions. You didn't ask Asuka about her job or her life, says Yumiko. Ken looks upset. I was nervous. I always talk a lot when I'm nervous, he says. I understand. But, you have to ask some questions too, says Yumiko. Then, the waiter asked, would you like a dessert? You said, yes, please. You should ask the woman, would you like a dessert? Ken feels very bad. I'm not good at dating, says Ken. I'm not a good man. No. You are a very good man, Ken, says Yumiko. We like you very much. You are a very good friend. But you need to study dating manners. Yes. You are a good man. But on dates, you get nervous. You need to relax, says Saho. When is your next date? I have an OMI introduction meeting next month. The woman is my mother's friend's daughter, says Ken. Where is the meeting? Asks Saho. It's in a restaurant in Chiba, says Ken. Don't forget. Ask the woman questions, says Saho. That day at work, Ken thinks about Saho and Yumiko's advice. I have to learn many things, he thinks. Next time, I will do a good job. I will not look at the menu for a long time. I will not talk about myself. I will ask the woman many questions. I will be a gentleman. Yumiko and Saho will be very surprised. And I will get a marriage partner. Chapter 4. Ken, his mother, his mother's friend, and her daughter are sitting in the hotel restaurant. Ken remembers Yumiko's advice. Ask the woman questions. So, he asks the woman many questions. Where do you work? In an office, says the woman. Do you like your job? Asks Ken. Yes, I do. Why? Asks Ken. Why? Asks the woman. She is very surprised. Yes. Why do you like your job? Asks Ken. I like my job because I like my co-workers, says the woman. What time do you start and finish work? Asks Ken. I start at 8:30 a.m. and I usually finish at 5:30 p.m. Sometimes, I finish at 6 p.m. What are your hobbies? Asks Ken. My hobbies? Well, I like watching movies and listening to music, says the woman. What kind of music do you like? Asks Ken. I like J-pop, says the woman. Where do you listen to music? Asks Ken. Where? Where do I listen to music? Usually in my room, or in my car, says the woman. Do you like driving? Asks Ken. Yes, I do, says the woman. I like driving too. But I don't have a car, says Ken. Oh really? Asks the woman. No, but I have a bicycle, says Ken. Do you have a bicycle? After the OMI meeting, Ken and his mother go home. Ken is very happy. He asked many questions, but his mother is not happy. You asked too many questions, Ken-chan, says his mother. Too many? Asks Ken. Yes, too many. It was like a job interview. The woman was very tired, says his mother. Later, Ken's mother's friend calls his mother. Her daughter does not want to see Ken again. Ken is very disappointed. Why not? I tried my best. I was polite. Yumiko and Saho said ask questions, so I asked many questions. What is the problem? Ken does not understand. The next day, Ken goes to the office. How was your OMI meeting? Asks Yumiko. It wasn't good. I failed, says Ken. She doesn't want to see me again. Why not? Asks Yumiko. I asked too many questions. My mother was angry, says Ken. How many questions did you ask? Asks Saho. I don't know. But my mother said it was like a job interview, says Ken. Oh Ken, you need a balance. Only asking questions is not good, says Saho. I know. But I get very nervous, says Ken. It's okay, Ken. Don't worry. We will help you. When is your next date? Asks Saho. I have a date with a woman from the internet site next month, says Ken. Is it at a restaurant? Asks Yumiko. No, it isn't. It's at a coffee shop, says Ken. Okay, Saho and I will go, too, says Yumeko. We will watch you again. Chapter 5. Ken and the woman are in the coffee shop. They are drinking coffee and laughing. Yumeko and Saho are sitting at the next table. They are talking and watching Ken. Yumeko and Saho are very happy. Ken is doing a good job. His manners are very good. When the waiter brought the menu, Ken asked the woman, "What would you like?" Also, he is communicating very well. He is asking some questions and the woman is asking some questions. Ken and the woman finish eating. The waiter brings the bill. Ken looks at the bill. 3,000 yen. So, that's 1,500 yen each, says Ken. The woman gives him 1,500 yen. Ken looks at Saho and Yumeko. They are not smiling. They look angry again. Why are they angry? What did I do wrong? He thinks. On Monday morning, Saho and Yumeko talk to Ken. Did I pass? Asks Ken. Ken, on your date, you communicated very well. You asked questions and you talked about yourself a little. That's very good. Saho and I were very happy, says Yumeko. So why did you look angry? Asks Ken. Because you made a big mistake, says Saho. Ken doesn't understand. I made a mistake? What did I do? He asks. The waiter brought the bill. You looked at it and then you said to the woman, "That's 1,500 yen each," says Saho. Is that bad? Asks Ken. Yes, it is, says Yumeko. The bill was only 3,000 yen. You should say I will pay. Oh really? But, when I go drinking with you and Saho, we always split the bill, says Ken. Yes, we do. That is because we are friends. But a date is different, says Saho. You should say, I will pay then. Some women might say no, we can split the bill 50 to 50. Some women might say, thank you very much. But it is good manners to say I will pay, says Yumeko. It was only 3,000 yen. Ken feels sad. He cannot do anything right. He always makes mistakes. Maybe I will be a single man forever, he says. No, Ken. You will find a good wife. Don't worry, says Saho. Yumeko and I are your Konkatsu support team. We will help you. I have a good idea, says Yumeko. How about a role play? A role play? What's that? Asks Ken. Ken and Saho, you go to a cafe. Imagine it is a real date. Saho, imagine you meet Ken for the first time. Ken, imagine Saho is a woman from the internet dating site. Saho, you check Ken's manners and actions. Then, you give feedback, says Yumeko. That's a good idea, says Saho. Yes, it's a fantastic idea, says Ken. But, Saho, your boyfriend Kei will be very angry. Saho looks upset. Kei and I broke up, she says sadly. Oh really? That's too bad, says Ken. Yes, we broke up 3 months ago. His company transferred him to southern Japan. He lives in Kyushu now. It's very far from Tokyo, so we can't see each other. I was very sad. I cried very much. But now I'm okay. I want a boyfriend in Tokyo. So, you don't have a boyfriend? Asks Ken. No, I don't. I'm single, says Seho. Chapter 6. After work, Ken sits in the cafe. He waits for Seho. They will have a role-play date. Seho walks into the cafe. Ken stands up. I'm Ken Maeda. Nice to meet you, says Ken. I'm Seho Machida. Nice to meet you too, says Seho. They sit down. Ken shows Seho the menu. What would you like to drink? He says. I would like a cappuccino, please, says Seho. Would you like anything to eat? Asks Ken. Yes, I'll have some chocolate cake, says Seho. The waiter comes to the table. A cappuccino and a café au lait, and 2 chocolate cakes, please, says Ken. Seho and Ken talk. They imagine they are meeting for the first time. They talk about hobbies and family. They laugh a lot. Then, Ken's phone rings. He answers it. It is his section manager. Hello. This is Ken Maeda speaking, he says. Yes, Kacho, I understand. Yes, of course. I will finish the report before Monday. Yes, goodbye. Ken finishes the telephone call. 5 minutes later, Ken's phone rings again. Ken answers the phone. Hello. This is Ken Maeda speaking. Hello again, Kacho. Yes. I understand. Yes, yes. Goodbye. Then, his phone rings again. And again. Every time, Ken answers it. In total, his phone rings 5 times. Seho is not happy. Chapter 7. It is Monday morning. Ken, Seho and Yumiko are talking in the office. How was the date? Asks Yumiko. It was good, says Ken. It was not good, says Seho. What? Says Ken. He is very shocked. I showed you the menu. I asked you questions. I talked. We laughed. Then I paid. Yes, you did. But, you made a big mistake. You answered your phone, says Seho. But, Kacho called me. It was very important, says Ken. But you answered your phone 5 times, says Seho. Ken, on a date, answering the phone 5 times is not good, says Yumiko. But, Kacho called me. I had to answer my phone, says Ken. Okay, I understand. But, did you say excuse me? Or sorry? Asks Yumiko. No, I didn't, says Ken. Did I fail? I'm sorry, Ken. You failed, says Seho. Ken goes to the smoking room and lights a cigarette. He thinks Seho and Yumiko are too strict. He is trying his best, but they are never happy. Before, Ken, Seho and Yumiko had a good time at work. Now, they are always saying, your manners are bad. You made a mistake. You failed. Ken feels bad. He thinks, I have many friends. People say I am handsome. I am polite. I am kind. I have a good job with a good salary. I am good at my job. Why aren't Saho and Yumiko happy? Why don't women want to be my girlfriend? Saho and Yumiko have very high standards. Too high. I'm not perfect. I'm a normal human being. Why can't they understand? I think Saho and Yumiko are too strict. He finishes his cigarette and goes back into the office. Don't worry, Ken. Try again next week, says Yumiko. Ken, take Saho to a restaurant. I don't know. I might give up on dating. Maybe I should stay single. Maybe I shouldn't get married or look for a girlfriend, says Ken. No, Ken. Don't give up. You are improving, says Yumiko. Take Saho to a restaurant. Try it one more time. Ken, we want to help you. We are your friends, says Saho. Ken looks at Yumiko and Saho. They are smiling. They are strict, but they are very good friends and they are trying to help him. Okay, I will, says Ken. One more time. One last chance. For a week, Ken studies about dating manners on the internet. He writes the advice from Saho and Yumiko in a notebook. This time, I will do a good job. My manners will be perfect, he thinks. A week later, Saho and Ken go to a restaurant. This time, Ken's manners are very good. He shows Saho the menu. He selects his dish very quickly. He asks her questions and he talks about himself a little. He says sorry and excuse me when he answers a phone call from his manager. He offers to pay the bill. They have a very good time. Saho is very pleased. Ken is trying hard. Chapter 8. It is 8 a.m. on Monday morning. Saho and Yumiko are talking. How was Ken in the restaurant? Asks Yumiko. He was very good, says Saho. He didn't ask too many questions. He offered to pay the bill. He was very charming. Great, says Yumiko. Did you have a good time, too? Yes, I had a very good time, says Saho. Ken doesn't need our help anymore. Really? Asks Yumiko. Yes, really, says Saho. They smile, but Saho feels a little sad. She had a very good time with Ken. They laughed and talked a lot. Ken comes into the office. Good morning, says Ken. Good morning, Ken, say Saho and Yumiko. Ken looks at Saho. Thank you, Saho. I had a nice time on Saturday evening. Thank you, Ken. I had a nice time, too. Congratulations, Ken, says Yumiko. Congratulations. Why? I don't understand, says Ken. You passed, says Yumiko. You don't need to go on role-play dates with Saho anymore. Really? Asks Ken. He is very surprised. Then he feels a little sad. On Saturday night, he had a good time with Saho. He wants to go on another date with her. He wants to spend time with her. You look sad, Ken. Why? This is happy news. Your manners are very good now. You can find a girlfriend easily, says Yumiko. Oh, I'm not sad, Of course not. I'm happy, says Ken. Thank you. Thank you very much. But Ken wants to go on a date with Saho. What can he do? He thinks for a few seconds. Then, he has an idea. Saho, I'm still nervous about dating. My manners are not perfect yet. Could we go on a date one more time? Asks Ken. I need to check my second date manners. Saho and Yumiko are surprised. Yes, of course, says Saho. She smiles at Ken. She had a good time with Ken. She wants to spend more time with him. Chapter 9. It is Saturday night. Ken and Saho are in a restaurant. They are eating and drinking. They are having a very good time. They talk about many things. They talk about work and their lives. Ken's manners are very good. Then, he stops talking. Are you okay, Ken? Asks Saho. You are very quiet. Yes, I am fine. But, I want to tell you something. Okay, go ahead, says Saho. I like you, says Ken. Pardon. Saho is very surprised. I like you, says Ken. Ken, I like you is very direct. It is only the second date. The woman will be very shocked, says Saho. When you see women from the internet dating site, don't say I like you on the second date. No, Saho, you don't understand. I like you, says Ken. Saho looks at Ken. She doesn't understand. Is this still a role-play date? Asks Saho. Is this still a practice date? No, this is not a role-play. This is not practice. This is not imagination. I like you, Saho, says Ken. You, Saho Machida, my co-worker. Saho is very surprised. She looks at Ken. He is a very kind man. He is a hard worker and he is very friendly. When they go out, they have a very good time. Saho smiles. She feels shy. I like you too, Ken, she says quietly. Really? Really? Asks Ken. Really? You like me? Yes, really. You are a very nice man. And you try your best to improve your manners, says Saho. You are a very hard worker. Saho, are you looking for a new boyfriend? Asks Ken. Yes, I am. I was very sad when my boyfriend went to Kyushu and we split up. But now I'm fine. I want to find a boyfriend soon. I want a boyfriend in Tokyo, says Saho. Saho, can I be your boyfriend? Asks Ken. Saho is very surprised. Pardon. I said, can I be your boyfriend? Says Ken. He feels very nervous. Oh, yes, of course. Thank you, Ken. I am happy to be your girlfriend, says Saho. Ken and Saho order champagne. They celebrate. They are both very surprised. They didn't expect to become a couple. Yumiko will be very surprised, says Ken. Yes, she will. I'll tell her on Monday, says Saho. Ken and Saho smile at each other. They are a very cute couple. Chapter 10. It is Monday morning. Saho tells Yumiko the news. Yumiko, I have some good news. Ken and I are a couple, says Saho. Really? Oh, great. Great. Wonderful. My plan worked, says Yumiko. Saho looks at Yumiko. Pardon? Your plan? What plan? Asks Saho. My plan. It was my plan from the start, says Yumiko. What? I don't understand, says Saho. Ken wanted a girlfriend. You wanted a boyfriend. I had a good idea. My idea was, you go on a role-play date with Ken and fall in love. Great. Perfect. It was my plan. You planned this? Asks Saho. Yes, I did, says Yumiko. Are you pleased? Or are you angry? I'm pleased, of course, says Saho, and very surprised. They both laugh. Ken comes into the office. Congratulations, Ken, says Yumiko. Oh, did Saho tell you? Asks Ken. We are a couple. Ken, it was Yumiko's plan. She arranged it, says Saho. What? Yumiko's plan? Really? Ken is very surprised. He looks at Yumiko. Thank you, Yumiko. I am very happy. Thanks to you, Saho and I are a couple. Then, the department manager, Fujibucho, comes into the office. Maeda-san, please come into my office, says Fujibucho. Yes, Fujibucho, says Ken. He goes into Fujibucho's office. Saho and Yumiko talk. Do you want to marry Ken? Asks Yumiko. Yes, I think so, says Saho. He is a very nice man. Ken and I have been friends and co-workers for many years. I know he is a kind man. And he is very handsome. Yes, he is, says Yumiko. You are lucky, Saho. You have a handsome and kind boyfriend. And he has very good manners too. 5 minutes later, Ken comes out of Fujibucho's office. He looks very sad. He sits down at his desk. Ken, are you okay? Asks Yumiko. Ken looks at the floor. No, I am not okay, he says. What's wrong? Asks Saho. I have some bad news, says Ken. Bad news? What? Asks Saho. She is very worried. Fujibucho gave me some very bad news, says Ken. What is it? Tell us, says Yumiko. Next month, I have to transfer to another office, says Ken. Transfer? Where to? Asks Saho. To Yonago City, says Ken. Yonago City? Say Saho and Yumiko. Where is Yonago City? Asks Saho. It's in Tottori Prefecture, in West Japan, says Ken. Tottori Prefecture? Says Saho. That's really far from Tokyo. Ken, Saho, what are you going to do? Asks Yumiko. Ken and Saho look at each other. Saho doesn't want another long-distance relationship. She wants a boyfriend in Tokyo. She doesn't know what to do. What will happen to Ken and Saho?